This segment of Hak5 is brought to you by Carbonite.
Shmoocon wouldn't be Shmoocon without the labs, and that's why I'm here with Brett Thorson. How are you, man?
All right, pleasure to be here.
Now, tell me, for those that aren't familiar with Shmoocon or the labs, what do you guys do?
So, well, Shmoocon is the conference, of course, and Shmoocon Labs is where we get a bunch of people together, and we make the network in about 36 hours to, anything from DHCP to DNS to network monitoring, event monitoring, intrusion detection, and the wireless, so detecting rogue IPs, APs, and all that kind of stuff.
So, you guys put together a network at the largest threat area you could possibly put at HackerCon, and it takes you 36 hours to put it together?
Yeah, we get here Thursday morning. We start around 8 a.m. and we work Thursday until we kind of think it's almost good. And then Friday we come in with some finishing touches. And once registration opens, we're in production. So
go.
Yes. Let's make sure everything works.
So what kind of crazy stuff do you see on such a hostile environment?
Well, we've actually had some rogue APs pop up, which was pretty interesting, connected to different networks. So we've detected that, and in some cases, if we know that they're okay, we'll just leave them there. In other cases, there's a double down network, and that's kind of like the wild west of Shmoocon. So if you really want to go hacking and doing nasty stuff, we go to the double down. So we just take whatever port their access point is on, and we just put it on the double down network.
You just move them. You're like, you know what? You're looking for more fun than the rest of everybody else, so we're just going to put you over here with the hackers. So how does the wireless infrastructure work at a hacker convention where obviously nefarious stuff is happening left and right?
Yeah, so luckily we have Mike Kershaw from Aruba. He brings his gear, and it gets set up all over the con, and then we have controllers. So, we're not doing the 1, 6, and 11 and manually programming it. Luckily, his equipment takes care of all of it. But we do have other vendors come in who do wireless monitoring so we can see if other people pop up. So.
And is everything just open, or is WPA, PSK, or is it Radius, or how does that all work?
So we have a couple different networks. We have one that is completely open, and that's, the Shmoocon open, and then we have the WPA, so you have to kind of sign up and get a key and everything, and that's more protected. And then we have the double down, or in this year I think it's called ROMP, and that's where people can kind of just go crazy and do whatever they want.
Okay, so tell me, what exactly is your domain? No pun intended.
Sure, no problem. So I got the servers from Bruce, because these are all, Shmoocon servers, and I kind of wiped them and, kind of put a base install of VirtualBox on one machine, and then VMware. We run a lot of VMware here. And then we wanted to get the core up and running for this running a Shmoocon Labs soonest, so that when we landed, we could get addresses out, we could get some basic packets routed. So then once we got here, my main area of interest is IPv6. So I signed up Shmoocon to get an IPv6 tunnel broker through Freenet 6.
And then what's Freenet 6? Is that like, what is it? Not General Electric, sorry. This is Hurricane Electric.
Yeah, Hurricane Electric and Freenet 6 kind of provide the same thing. It's a free IPv6 tunnel broker, and they do a great job. I mean...
And what's the protocol? So you're basically doing 4 to 6?
So we are doing V6 over UDP v4. So actually back up on this screen, you can see our endpoint here is Scooter, and then the other endpoint is at 64 address. And we've actually pushed about 410 gig of data in about 24 hours over that IPv6 network.
Wow, so how many clients do you get on an IPv6 network here?
So it's a little hard to tell because of the way IPv6 works. By my kind of loose metrics, it looks like we have about 500 to 600 active people using it that may not even know that they're using it.
Well, considering it's in all new operating systems, and most everybody here is either running Linux or a recent build of something else, but that's surprising considering there's only 1,600 people here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people may have either brought laptops and just shut off V6 because, at some point they read a document, and it can make your system run slow if it's misconfigured in certain instances. So I think there were a lot of people that maybe just shut it off. But we've definitely, that number is increasing, I don't want to say logarithmically, but it's increasing a lot over the years. I mean, the first year we did IPv6 about 4 years ago, we didn't have that many people, and we kind of got it up late. So this year we got V6 up like right at registration open. So we've had a lot of opportunity to get people on the network.
Nice. Now, how does somebody go about actually getting, and now, not those that like have it automatically configured and don't know what they're doing, or don't realize that they're getting an IP6 address, but how do you go about getting an IP6 address from you guys, technically speaking?
You mean at home or here?
Here.
Okay, so if you have IPv6 enabled on your laptop, it'll do what's called auto configuration, and we have a router advertisement daemon that sends out the first 64 bits of a 128-bit address, and then your machine just invents the other 64 bits, puts it together, and you now have a globally routable IPv6 address.
You make it sound so easy. No, he just finds the first 64 bits and it's like, oh, hey everybody, I'm the router. Here's my address. Come up with another 64, put it on the end, and we can all be friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in between there. There's duplicate address detection and neighbor detection, and there's even some attack vectors in there. So there's now secure neighbor discovery and a lot of other stuff that we haven't seen any attack vectors yet on IPv6 here at Shmoocon. And now that I say that, of course, next year we have something more to do on IPv6, which is always good. So we should be running a nice secure network, as secure as we can.
So how does the client invent the other 64 bits?
So the other 64 bits, like the first address that the computer will kind of think of will be its MAC address, and then they'll shove some FF, FE, some extra bits in there to make it 64 bits, and that'll be the address that it creates. Then most operating systems have what's called privacy extensions, because if you have an IP address that incorporates your MAC address, I can follow you around the United States. Oh, today you're on AT&T's IPv6 network, and today you're on Darren's IPv6 network, or Shmoocon.
And since it's tied to your MAC address, your hardware, physically your hardware, now if I ever seize your hardware, I can say, actually, it was your computer and it did go to these places.
Exactly. It's very easy to track. So they came up with privacy extensions, which it'll make that first address, but then it'll also do some randomization and come up with a random end of 64 bits for your host. And then it'll do the duplicate address detection to make sure no one else is using it, and then it'll use that. And what's even cooler about that is, when some people look at how many V6 addresses they have, the I6.
A trillion.
Yeah, exactly. And what you can do with V6, which is nice, is you can deprecate addresses. So I'll use, address 1 for 15 minutes, then I'll bring on address 2. Any new connections are made with address 2, and I'll deprecate address 1, and then I can just keep rotating. So not only is it kind of hard to find you, but it's hard to keep track of you.
It's almost like using the onion router.
Yeah, and there's even mobile IPv6 where you can jump around, but not many people have implemented it.
When you sign up to actually get a block of IP6 addresses, don't you get like a trillion? So couldn't you potentially do every single Google search on a brand new IP every time?
Yeah, and I mean, you could really run through it. And what I like to say is you can take everything on the IPv4 internet right now and put it in one IPv6 network, and you can take everything on the IPv4 network and make it its own IPv6 network. I mean, there's just so many addresses out there. I mean, even for here, we get a /56. So we have an extra 8 bits to just do subnetting, and that's free. So.
And have you seen any sort of interesting things happening with geolocation and IP6?
Most of the geolocation databases like MaxMind and Akamai, I don't know if they have a whole lot of V6 data in their databases yet. I think they may be looking at it, but I haven't seen a whole lot of that data there, and that just might be me not seeing it yet. But with IPv6, since they're trying to keep the networks in a specific location, it's actually kind of easy to see, where did this prefix come from? Oh, it's Brazil.
Yeah, I know. With all these addresses, it does make things a lot more interesting. Tell me, what are some of the more interesting things you've seen happening on the network here?
So while we were setting up the DHCP server for the con, we're using the straight ISC DHCP that kind of everyone uses. And our machine that runs it, we had all the VLANs trunked to it, except for the management, which was untagged. And I was looking at the logs, and I started seeing duplicate requests come in, one on the VLAN, one on the, raw device, and it was from the same MAC address. So I was like, that shouldn't be happening. So we, looked at the packet captures, and only one packet was coming in. So it turns out that there was a bug in the DHCP server when you were using the VLANs. I mean, that was kind of cool to find a bug in something that's pretty...
Yeah, so it wasn't like a hacker, it was just like a malfunction in the system.
Yep. And we also have a lot of vendors that bring intrusion scanning or vulnerability scanning systems. So it's pretty interesting to run that against the crowd. And, we don't run the wall of sheep here because that's just not the kind we are. But we do have some of those tools running, and we look, and there's plenty of people still doing unsecured stuff on the network.
I'm sure there's plenty of plain text on the wall right here. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. What is the future of Shmoocon Labs?
I'm just happy to participate and be invited back every year as a staff member. And so I don't think it'll be going away. We have really good positive feedback every year.
So how can people get involved?
So as soon as you get your Shmoocon barcode, Labs is just another tab on the homepage, and you go there and you submit a piece of paper that says, this is why I want to be in Labs, this is what I hope to learn, and then we review.
You're like, I know the difference between TCP and UDP. Obviously, I should be admitting one of the servers.
Yeah, we actually had one guy submit a request. He goes, I want to be on Labs because I can move packets. So I'm like, hey, that's a good reason. We need moving packets.
Moving packets are good. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you very much.
Carbonite protects your pictures and your other files from a computer crash, fire, theft, or when you accidentally delete one by automatically and continually backing up your files and keeping them securely off-site. You'll never have to remember to back up again. Whether you have 1 or 2 computers at home or several computers at your small business, Carbonite is the better backup plan. Over 1 million customers trust Carbonite to protect their home and small business computer files, with plans starting at just $59 a year. And start your free trial at Carbonite.com with the offer code HAK5, and you'll get 2 bonus months if you decide to buy. That's Carbonite.com, and the offer code for 2 bonus months is HAK5.